They're giving up jobs, placing family on hold for 10 months and risking life and limb. Over 200 men and women from all ages, all walks of life and from all over the world. On September the 10th, they set off on the BT Global Challenge, a sailing race that could change their lives forever. It's called the world's toughest yacht race. The chance for ordinary people to perform the extraordinary. The BT Global Challenge provides an adventure of a lifetime, where teamwork, leadership and communication must be of the highest calibre. Some, though, call it complete madness. Why subject yourself to sailing round the world the wrong way, against a battering from prevailing winds and currents? The worst nature can throw at you. Like constantly running uphill, wondering if you'll ever reach the top. Oh, by the way, it'll cost you £25,000 for the privilege. There are 12 identical yachts with professional skippers, 10 men and 2 women in charge of all the amateurs. Ahead lies a grueling 10-month marathon of 32,000 miles, taking in 5 continents, 7 ports, 3 oceans and the 2 Great Capes, Cape Horn and the Cape of Good Hope. You can follow the team's highs and lows as they visit the United States, Argentina, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa and France before returning to the UK and Southampton in June next year. It's the 3rd Global Challenge, an event created by former paratrooper Sir Che Blythe, the legendary yachtsman who proved it possible to sail the wrong way round the world 30 years ago, single-handed and non-stop.
I mean, for me, I've always wanted to do something which is totally unique and would always be stand there forever and a day. I've never been very much impressed by records. Far better for me to do something that is an achievement rather than a record. And so when the opportunity came up to do this particular voyage around the world against the prevailing winds and currents, it was something really I couldn't afford to not attempt.
Bitten by the sailing bug, Sir Che went round the world again in the first Whiphead race of 1973.
Sheet!
He skippered a crew of paratroopers, proving a team of non-yachtsmen could not only achieve the feat, but do it in style. Then he saw the opportunity to set up his own race and break down what he perceived as the barriers to the ordinary man and woman taking part in yachting. In 1989, he created Challenge Business at his home. The company aims to inspire people to fulfill a dream. People are so determined to turn fantasy into reality, they'll pay a lot of money to do it.
Crew volunteers joined the BT Global Challenge for many reasons. The first thing, of course, is that some want to be out and out racing people, others want adventure, others just want a straightforward challenge. And for some, I guess, they're just happy to go around the world and sail deep sea. But all of them, of course, have got this tremendous spirit and this great enthusiasm for the project, and I must say I'm their biggest fan. What you got to remember is at the end of the day, all of us will be lying in their bed, looking at our toes, and when the dusk's coming down, you'll ask your toes, did I really enjoy life? Did I do all what I want to do? If the answer is no, you're going to be pretty brassed off, I can tell you.
As ever, those who are deciding they must not be left with unfulfilled ambitions come from all walks of life, like Babs Powell, the former dancer, and her actor husband Robert, who's sailing a leg himself. Businessman Paul Cavell, at 61, the oldest in the race. Helen Cooling from New Zealand, one of the international contingent. Vincent Game, a 50-year-old computer analyst from France. Robert Bell, a principal dancer with the Dutch National Ballet. Charlotte New, the 22-year-old who doesn't let being deaf get in the way of her ambitions. And Ian Sheeran, the policeman from London whose beat is number 10 Downing Street, home of the British Prime Minister. He sees all the highest members of government come and go.
I've been a police officer for the past 16 years. I have 2 fantastic children who are now 10 and 11, and I'm a family man. Well, my colleagues here that know I'm doing this, and all of them do now, some think that I'm completely crazy or slightly insane. But a lot of them see it for what it is, an unbelievable adventure, something which is out of the ordinary, and an opportunity of a lifetime, as it's been described so many times. And it is exactly that.
Babs Powell, a London housewife, is another who's decided on a major change of gear in her life.
I used to have a career as a dancer with a dance group called Pan's People. I retired from Pan's People when I was 30, when I met my husband. And we got married and wanted a family. And we were in a position then that I didn't have to go out and retrain and do anything else. So I was able to become a professional mum, I suppose you could say, and had the privilege of being able to be around my kids as they grew up. So it's cats, it's dogs, it's kids, it's housework, it's shopping, it's cooking, it's cleaning, it's ironing. My husband is very busy. We support a lot of charities, so we go to many, many charity events. I found myself sitting next to Prince Michael of Kent. He took part, I think, in the Wellington to Sydney leg. And again, he said it was an amazing experience. He loved sailing. And he suggested that I applied for it. So next morning I thought, if I think too much about it, I won't do it. So I just picked up the phone and rang. And then about 18 months later, I was sent for my interview, which was last summer. So I'm a relative latecomer.
Many of the crew volunteers had never sailed a boat around the bay, yet alone the world, until they'd signed up for the BT Global Challenge.
But it only needs to go far forward.
There's more to learning to sail, though, than the practicalities. It's also about communicating and digging deep when the going gets tough.
We were doing that right through until the very last little bit where everyone's starting getting a little bit tired yesterday. And guess what? It's when you're getting really tired, the team's stuffed and knackered and everything like that, had a hard sail. That's normally when the communication has to work the best.
Okay, crew ready? Tacking! Jenny, you got to get that runner back. No, it's not. It should be back. Yeah, well, Jen, you got to get, that shouldn't all be on there like that.
The volunteers complete 4 major training sessions to reach the necessary proficiency. But what drives them on to take part at all?
Sitting at home one evening, having been at work, and going through the channels, and I came across a yachting programme, continued to watch it, and became inspired and captivated by everything about it and the descriptions that the crew were giving. And at the very end of the programme, it explained that it was for volunteers and they paid their own way. And I researched to find out who was running it, and that was it. It went from there, and that was in the end of '93, and I registered in very early '94. I had no sailing experience until I'd actually signed up for the challenge. My wife initially was not very impressed because when I put my name on the waiting list, I had to register with £100. It was money we didn't have at the time. We were the mortgage rates had gone quite high, and we just bought my brother out, and I hadn't told her that I was actually putting myself forward. So when the mail came through and she opened it, she was a little bit upset, I think was the understatement of the year.
You need it, don't you, Briggsy?
As far as Babs Powell is concerned, her family aren't at all surprised she's doing the race.
It was something that came up in conversation, and I reacted in the same kind of way that you might expect if Mum had just turned around and said, "I'm just going down the shops," you know. So I went, "Oh, that's nice, lovely, round the world challenge, going around the world the wrong way. Okay, fine." So it was sort of an initial sort of stage of shock, and then I suddenly realised that it's just one step further than doing the marathon. You know. I'm sure in a couple of years' time she'll be doing Everest, and I'm hoping that she wants to be the first housewife on the moon.
It's kind of getting back to basics, uncluttering my life, focusing on something very specific and something very pure. I think sailing is very pure. I think the yachts are absolutely beautiful. No phone, no fax, no being stretched in hundreds of different directions.
It's incredibly relaxing. It's intensive while you're there, and when I'm sailing I tend not to be able to think about anything else other than the yacht and the surroundings that I'm in, which in a lot of ways is good because I'm concentrating very, very hard. but I find it very relaxing as well. When I return and when I'm coming back, I do feel more relaxed and laid back.
Devonport Dockyard, Plymouth, where 10 of the 12-strong fleet of identical yachts are being built. Believe it or not, they can be assembled from a basic flat-pack kit, where steel panels forming the framework are slotted together like a giant puzzle. Each boat costs around £800,000. They are 72-footers, designed by the world-renowned Rob Humphreys. On the other side of the world, the remaining 2 yachts in the fleet are being constructed at Xinhui, a town in the Guangdong province of China. At Kim's Boatyard, alongside the Pearl River, they're about to be assembled from those revolutionary kits. A team of 45 craftsmen, hand-picked from the many shipyards in southern China, will spend 50,000 hours and 14 months lovingly piecing them together. It's estimated another 1,000 hours went into planning, even before the first steel panel was cut by laser. Yacht design has come a long way over the years, but the search for improved speed and safety goes on constantly.
Each race, and particularly the BT Global Challenge, we're pushing the bounds. The skippers and crew are driving the yachts harder than I think anybody else ever has done in the race around the world. They're going to windward they never stop sailing to windward, they never stop driving. They're doing in 50, 60, 70 knots of wind. They're in the Southern Ocean, they're still driving to windward, and the loads on the yacht are huge and unfortunately virtually incalculable. We could create a tank, we could make it so that nothing would ever break, but it wouldn't be a yacht and it wouldn't be satisfying to sail. So it's a very big balance problem to try and achieve a safest possible situation and yet still make it exciting.
So the boat construction is underway, but of course they'll need people to sail them. The process of choosing the skippers is turned almost into a science by Sachet's organisation.
Yes!
Stand still there, please.
That's the first one.
It's rigorous and is as much about mental agility and leadership as it is about sailing skills.
Because it wants to lie flat.
I've got it.
The skipper selection has gone from just a sort of yachty thing, which we first started off with the British Yacht Challenge, to now really a sophisticated programme. And in a lot of ways, I should think it's leading the world as far as selection process for yacht captains are concerned.
The skipper selection was fantastic. I mean, I think, and I really feel for some of the skippers who applied to be skippers for this race who didn't make it. But I know myself that in going through the selection process, even if I wasn't selected for it, it was worthwhile doing the skipper selection process.
We had 186 applicants and we narrowed down by various stages. Then we sent them off on a 3-day course where we had professional management teams and leadership teams to assess them. And then finally, when we had 20 of them, we sent them off for another week's course.
When we were broken up into 4 groups, we sat down and I said to the guys within our team, we all huddled around at a table and say, okay guys, we've got to have a strategy here. And I said, well look, we've got, the best case scenario is all 10 of us are going to get selected to the next stage. The worst case scenario is that none of us are going to get through to the next stage. So why don't we just decide to actually work together as a team and see how many out of the 10 we can actually get through to the next skipper selection. We got 7 out of the 10 through.
There are surprises and fun too along the way. But it's crucial to ensure the skipper is of the highest calibre because their job description covers far more than sailing a boat.
Pull him out, go on, pull him out.
On the one hand, you see, he's got to deal with his sponsor, but in fact the sponsor's a client, so therefore he's got to look towards him, and yet he's got to work hand in hand with him. He's got to work with the crews, and although the crews are clients as well, they never see themselves as that. They see themselves as part of the team. He's also got to work for the challenge business. He's got the business club people to take care of, and he's pulled in all different directions, but equally he's got to race a boat, he's got to look at the weather, he's got to navigate, It's a very complex job.
Stephen Wilkins is one of those who passed the quality test to become a skipper. The 36-year-old from Adelaide has sailed since he was 7 and has completed 2 Sydney to Hobart races. Now he's excited by a new chapter unfolding in his life.
Undertaking a trip around the world against the prevailing winds and currents, is a big deal. It is a big deal, and it's a monstrous achievement for anybody who actually does this. I mean, if anybody just gets around the world, keeping their crew happy, keeping their crew safe, and successfully complete this voyage, they have won. They've won in their own right, even though they might be the 12th yacht. The whole element to this race, I would have to put into a nutshell as being people. The race is only possible because of the crew volunteers, and it's those crew who actually put the human element into it. The different types of personalities, the walks of life, the ages, the sailing experience, and sometimes the lack of sailing experience from when we first met them. And just to see the way that they develop and change and grow and become not only very competent sailors, but how the actual race actually changes their life as well.
In China, the yachts are nearing completion. Final touches are being made before they start their long journey to England. Everything from interior to deck components, from wiring and winches to furniture. They're almost like babies to the workforce. They've become attached to them and will be sad to see them go. Kim's Yard are rightly proud of their achievement and ensure they're sent on their way in style. A colourful and noisy ceremony is arranged. It's not often newly built craft receive this kind of special treatment. Huge transport vehicles are brought in to take the 40-ton boats on the first stage of their journey to the UK. These onlookers can only watch and wonder. Sailing around the world will forever be a dream to them. The yachts are taken to Hong Kong, where they meet up with their giant mothership, the Shanghai Express, one of the biggest container vessels in the world. They're loaded for the 8,000-mile ocean journey to the UK that'll take 3 weeks. The final part of the work, keel laying and rigging, will be done at Bertham's Boatyard in southern England. Wellington, New Zealand, home to Helen Cooling. Looking out from her office across the harbour has no doubt helped provide Helen with the inspiration to tackle the race. She's one of a large international contingent competing.
Hi, Helen speaking. Part of it's just because of the challenge. I don't know the real reason behind it, but I've always watched the Whitbread, seen them go around Cape Horn, never sailed before, and I thought, well, why not? It's an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to do something like this. It's just huge. Well, when I first signed up, the New Zealand dollar was like 57,000 New Zealand dollars, which was a pretty achievable target, plus another 20,000. But because of the volatility of the dollar, it's now become in excess of 83,000. Plus, when we're in port, we have to pay for all our own accommodation and food and shore gear and this sort of thing. So it's about 100,000. Sometimes it's just been I just want to pull out. You wake up in the morning, you see the exchange rate, and you just feel physically sick because it's so hard being on the other side of the world when everyone else is in the UK. And what they banked for a pound equals a pound. What I banked today might equal 50p tomorrow. I don't have enough yet. But I know that I'll get there. Something will come out of the woodwork, or I'll just do it on the bones of my bum. When I come back, I don't know what I'll do. I might just go work on the America's Cup. The America's Cup's coming to Auckland, so why not? So there's a start of a sailing CV, really.
January 2000, the London Boat Show at Earl's Court. Crew volunteers from all over the world are gathering to find out which team they're going to be in for the race. There are 12 teams in all. Who will they be sailing with? Challenge Business have the tricky task of making a balanced selection. Babs Powell is here with her actor husband Robert. After she'd signed up for the challenge, Robert even decided to do a leg himself. He wonders though if the experience will change her.
Yeah, I think she's incredibly brave. I don't know what she's going to do when she comes off. I mean, I said to her, you do realise that when you come home, you're going to walk through the front door, go, oh, good grief, and walk straight out again. Because you're not going to be able to come back to this kind of life after you've done something as extraordinarily daring as what you're about to do.
It's a time of anticipation and excitement. Sir Che breaks the tension with a timely joke.
As part of the crew allocation process, we'd like to know who you would like to sail with and who you would prefer not to sail with. We got one guy who shall remain nameless. He listed 17 people he didn't want to sail with. He's now sailing single-handed.
Now the moment they've all been waiting for.
First the skipper, Will Carnegie.
The teams are announced and everyone hurries off to meet their skipper, the experienced man or woman who'll carry a demanding responsibility over the coming months. Some teams are already sponsored. The rest will follow by the time the race starts. One sponsor, Compaq, are laying on special taxis to take their team to a celebration dinner.
You're seeing a winning team now, pal.
Meanwhile, Lynn Parker and her team are in high spirits and full of self-belief.
How are you feeling?
Oh, ecstatic, absolutely unbelievable. The tension, the atmosphere has been so electric in here tonight, and I haven't been able to stop looking at my watch for about 2 hours, and now finally everyone knows where we're going to move forward from here, and these are the guys that are going to help me win the BT Global Challenge!
Win! Yes! I need one place to win!
La Rochelle in Western France, the last stopover for the BT Global Challenge. It'll provide an emotional homecoming for crew volunteer Vincent Game, a computer analyst.
Well, I think it's a little bit of magic. It's like for people who like sailing, people who like to go in the mountain, they'll go to their Everest. So somewhere I feel I'm 50 years old. I've decided to break my piggy bank, to make something extraordinary and a little bit of a lot of magic once in my life. My second daughter will still be worried about security, so I have to be very careful to explain to her all the items about security on the boat, personal beacon, and all the satellite equipment we have, which enables us to do it at a good level of security and safety.
The crew volunteers continue with their training. There are exercises to prepare them for possible disasters that lie in wait in the world's oceans.
Run three.
The LG Flatron team are at a specialist centre to face the unnerving experience of a sinking helicopter simulator.
Got the exit, the other end of the seat buckled. Looking in that direction. Water's coming up, stand by, breath.
It's a good exercise, teaching them how to cope if their yacht has the misfortune to turn over. Once out of the helicopter, it's time to climb into a life raft. Even that's no easy task.
You can only come in if you've brought some sweets. No, we're not allowed to help her, I don't think, because she might be first in next time.
Help her from the other end
A CO2 extinguisher, the two types, and a foam spray.
Some of the other skippers are enlisting the help of the Royal Navy for a fire drill at Devonport.
Literally on anything.
They're being taught how to use different types of extinguisher.
Now, to know that.
But there's nothing more enlightening than getting your hands dirty with a demonstration.
Go forward and put it over the fire, pull it tight, and leave it. It'll put the fire out. It'll suffocate the fire. And I'll show you now, if I chuck a match on, how the temperature has risen. How easy it's to reignite. A spark would reignite that very, very easily.
Time for Alex Phillips, one of the two women skippers, to have a go at putting out the blaze.
big hug.
I just leave go of the blanket.
Later, they're sent into a smoke-filled room.
When you fire off that extinguisher, you're going to get a rush of hot gases coming back.
There's a real fire inside. The best way to tackle the problem is by crawling along the floor, where temperatures are cooler.
Okay.
The object is not only to put out the blaze, but rescue an injured person, in this case, a dummy.
Right. Okay. Okay, right, Kat.
As a team, we spent quite a lot of time on our team communication and having a briefing before we do anything, and I think that paid off today, just being able to stand outside a room that you know is on fire, that there's a body in there, that you have to fight the fire and get the body, and just having a briefing and knowing very clearly what each of us will be doing, I think made a big difference.
Another tough day, but a valuable one. Skipper Mark Denton has certainly dropped his team, BP, in the deep end, quite literally on their first day together. They're with the Royal Navy in Portsmouth at a sinking ship simulator and are about to be hit by an Exocet missile. In reality, the potential problem for a yacht would be a submerged object, like a container.
Really, I was putting them to the test. We'd done a lot of theory throughout the day, and we really wanted to put that into practice. We'd done other exercises, but this was something I, kept tucked up my sleeve, and it was very secret right to the end. And then we sort of sprung it on them, and it was really a very stretching task and a lot to ask them to do. I mean, it was just a phenomenal exercise, and one I hope we don't ever have to repeat on the boat, kind of thing.
The exercise is to patch up holes in the ship where the water is flooding in.
They absolutely, grabbed hold of the task and ran with it, and they really, really came through. I mean, some of them came out looking a lot better than I did, so that just proves it. They really pulled together as a team.
Well done, okay, 2 people here, blanket search, we're sorted out. Well done, well contained. Mark, you stay there, just finish it off, right? Okay?
I've got to be honest, I found it a very, very arduous task, and I think some of the rest of the guys did. I mean, for a start, I was absolutely frozen solid. I can't stress, I was physically shaking, and it took nigh on an hour for me to stop shaking from the cold.
It's a tough start to the training. No doubt there'll be more surprises along the way. It's May, and the yachts come together as a fleet for the first time to sail from their base in Plymouth around the south coast of England to London, where they'll go on public view for a week.
Here she comes with a master plan, and I'm starting to lose control. Here she comes to this treasure man, and I'm ready to chase it all when she
The fleet cuts an impressive sight as it travels up the Thames, passing some famous London landmarks along the way, including the Millennium Dome. One crew brings a Scottish flavour to the moment as they pass under Tower Bridge. Appropriately, it's a Scot, none other than Sir Che, who's there to welcome them with a present containing a welcome tipple. St Catherine's Dock is where the public, sponsors and potential backers have a chance to look over the yachts and meet the crews. It's a relaxing and enjoyable time for everyone, including our policeman, Ian Sheeran. But for Justine Maddock from Auckland, New Zealand, how was that sail from Plymouth?
We had some fairly hefty winds and good seas, so it was a good test of the boat, good test of the crew. Really lucky on the watch I was with. We had 6 people that worked really well together. Luckily, no seasickness within my watch. Unfortunately, the other watch suffered quite badly with seasickness, so we were pretty lucky.
Being in London, Ian Sheeran couldn't pass up the opportunity to pop along to 10 Downing Street to see his old mates. But he had an ulterior motive.
I'd had an idea from the very sort of quite early on that I would like to have brought some of my sailing companions up to meet the Prime Minister, and or at least have the photographs taken outside the number 10. So Team Large were able to come up here after making numerous inquiries through the press office to see if it would be possible to have a photograph outside the door with the Prime Minister. And we were very lucky to fit into his really hectic schedule, and certainly as it was so close to his lady giving birth as well. So he had a lot on his mind, but he was fantastic. He spent at least 15 minutes with us, and for a man that's got a very, very tight schedule during a day, to take his time to come and meet the team, and he met all of them individually and chatted to us all. It was really was a great day. It really was fantastic. And we presented him with one of our Team Large T-shirts and a book of the last race.
So Sheeran and his colleagues will set off with approval from the very top. From London to Amsterdam, and another crew volunteer who's giving up his job for the race. This is the city where a rugby-playing Englishman is an unlikely principal dancer at the Dutch National Ballet.
We did all the major classical ballets. We did Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, Nutcracker, Romeo and Juliet, as well as a lot of new work, a lot of contemporary work, new creations. My job description at the National Ballet is probably to lift girls and wear tights. Why do sailing? Why do ballet? I started ballet when I was 15. You know, from Lancashire, played rugby, and then suddenly found myself in a pair of ballet tights doing ballet. It's like, how the hell did I get into that? And then I sort of fell in love with sailing about 10 years ago. I got introduced to it in Canada when I was about 20, and fell in love with that. And this sort of opportunity came up. I never wanted to say, you know, I should have done that, would have done it, and could have. So I thought, well, I'm young enough, fit enough, let's go and do it.
I wasn't surprised, actually, because he was already doing a lot of sailing, and it was obvious that he loved it. He had found his second passion. And given his age and so on, and the career is quite short, I think it made a lot of sense for him to just get on with it now.
Dancers have this great sort of quality of they just keep going. They don't stop, and hopefully I can continue that. And just you know, they're very good at repetition, again and again and again. That's what the challenge is. It's going to be like, I think, changing sails again and again and again.
And repetition is the name of the game as far as food on the yachts is concerned. American Derek Brennan from Save the Children explains.
So this is your basic day bag, and into this day bag you start with breakfast, of course, which is, in this case, we'd have bread mix and porridge on this day. This is enough for, believe it or not, for 18 people. Lunch consists on this particular day of macaroni and cheese. Macaroni, 4 bags. This is enough cheese for 18 people. Depending on whether we've behaved or not, we get 1 of 18 candy bars. And then we move on to dinner, which on this day would be lentils.
This limited menu is repeated every 8 days for the next 10 months, wherever they are in the world. So they'll get the chance to sample this menu at least 3 times on the first leg of the race, the 3,200 miles from Southampton to Boston, USA. Before that, the crews must undertake what's known as a qualifying sail. It's early July. The place, Ocean Village, Southampton. A skipper's meeting to discuss final plans. The sail lasts 6 days. It's the longest time the crews will have sailed together and gives them the chance to build team spirit, test emergency procedures and clock up the necessary sea miles. And for some, practice their camera skills for worldwide TV coverage.
Well, it's an opportunity for them to test all the systems and all the drills on board and all the training we've given over the last 3 years to put it into practice. And of course, that applies in practice, whether it's heavy winds or light winds, and of course we all know that light winds is the one you've got to really train for. So today will be a good start, a good practice for them.
The longest any of them I think have spent on board a boat is 3 or 4 days, and just life on board is something that we're going to have to work quite hard at getting used to. It's something you can't practice for until you actually do it, so hopefully they'll start getting used to being about each other on the boat.
It's a way of testing our own systems, our own watch systems, for everyone to get used to the boat. We've got a couple of guys that actually haven't even seen the boat before, it's their first time. So it's customising ourselves with all the routines, the systems and the boat itself.
I've no idea what makes some of these guys tick. I'm sure I'm going to find out at 3 in the morning when I'm screaming at them. But yeah, as I said, a real voyage of discovery.
But Babs Powell, one of Will Carnegie's crew, could be about to miss out on this little adventure unless she gets a move on. The boats sail out to the Solent for the start, a dress rehearsal for the real thing. Soche wishes everyone well. And what's this? New Zealander Chris Farley is using the famous haka to pump up his colleagues for the occasion. No worries for Carnegie's team after all. They and Babs are away on time. The tides are the same they'll encounter on the big day. This time it's not a race, it's for experience only. The course takes them west along the English Channel, south to Ushant in France, and then eventually northeast back to the Solent. The course planners have built in around 1,000 miles of sailing. Soon everyone's settling down to the routine of the boat. It's time to keep the crew fortified by preparing the evening meal. But on LG Flatron, chef Liz Hurst is taking a bit of a gamble.
This is a secret lightweight rolling pin. I think if the skipper knew that we had things like rolling pins on board, he'd probably be a bit cross.
Yeah. An hour later, and it's time to serve it up.
Shortcake, spoonful of overhydrated raspberries, and a few dollops of cream, and that's dessert. Equator is dessert.
As the sun goes down, race headquarters transmits instructions for the first of many emergency exercises. Fire down below.
Funny smell.
Nick Fenton, skipper of Save the Children, plays the part.
It smells of smoke, doesn't it? Yeah. My God, there's fire coming through the oilskin locker. Exercise, exercise! There's a fire on deck. There's a fire. There's a fire in the oilskin locker.
All hands on deck! All hands on deck! Becky, go and get all those people.
All the other yachts must do the same.
All hands on deck!
On Carnegie's yacht, they've gone for a touch of realism.
Break sides, break sides, break sides. Fire, fire, fire in the oilskin locker. Fire in the oilskin locker, guys. Everyone up.
This door's red hot. You can't touch it. Really
On
hot.
Logica, skippered by Jeremy Troughton, they seem to have the same problem.
There's going to be less seats.
Nick Fenton on Save the Children has the emergency equipment ready for evacuation. They've sent 2 crew to tackle the blaze by crawling along the smoke-filled cabin.
Okay, you can't touch the door, it's red hot.
On Logica, Troughton is taking charge and is fighting the fire by going under the floor.
You want the fire hose over the side?
The crew add their own sound effects for realism.
Open the door a little bit.
On Save the Children, they're confronting the fire through the door.
Hey! It's out.
Don't put up the front way, Jack.
Put that Geordie out. Let's throw the smouldering debris over the side, shall we?
Inevitably, there's laughter, but of course, there's a serious purpose to it all. the next morning and thoughts turn to food. It's time to make the bread and taste it. No problem here passing the quality test. The washing up looks a nightmare though. Doing it over the side saves fresh water. Only a limited supply is carried on board and a water maker is used to convert seawater into fresh. Having enough fresh water is a big issue on a yacht, but Amanda Millichope on LG Flatron simply has to wash her hair.
You're going to get your hair cut for the race, so you're going to have it that long for the race.
You either have it really long so you can tie it back, or you have it really short so that you don't need to do anything with it. The way I feel at the moment, it's increasingly likely that I'll have it shaved.
Over on Manley Hopkinson's boat, a lot of attention is being paid to sail trim.
Not going as fast as you want to, but we're working on it. We've stopped the rot, that's the main thing. And we might just swap our spinnakers and catch up the rest.
On Mark Denton's boat, BP, their spinnaker's quite happily flying. However, they're about to experience a unique problem.
Whoa! Man overboard!
Not a real man overboard, thankfully. The crew are well briefed. There's always someone ready to stand and point at the MOB, as it's known.
Alan, check the MOB buttons, press. On, check.
They must get the spinnaker down first. This illustrates only too well how difficult it is to turn the boat around while running downwind. By now, our man in the water is a considerable distance away and almost out of sight.
Off the quarter, 200 meters.
On board Logica, Troughton's crew have got their spinnaker down, but are finding out that turning the boat around can be a dangerous manoeuvre.
Head! Yeah, secure that one, flip it onto something.
Back with Denton's crew, they've turned around and are slowly closing in on their target.
When you turn, you'll be directly upwind.
And New Zealander Helen Cooling's on hand to retrieve the lifebelt and Dan Boy. But imagine attempting this painstaking procedure in the high seas of the Southern Ocean. Mark Denton doesn't waste time in giving his crew a debrief.
You've got to get the kite down, obviously, because you're trucking downwind. Yeah, if you don't get the kite down, you just get further and further and further away. Yeah, further and further away. I think at 10 knots, in a minute you're 1,000 foot away.
What threshold did this get to? Yeah?
On Manley Hopkinson's boat, he has a genuine problem. His water maker's broken. There's only one thing for it: get the instruction book out.
The low pressure water switch on the high pressure pump. No, on the high pressure pump of the water maker. There's a poor connection on the crimp, but because it was all actually half broken. So we'll put this together, press the button and heave home a hearty. I think the paint job's a good method.
These yachts pack plenty of high-tech equipment. Crews can shoot, edit and transmit pictures back to the UK, as well as sending and receiving emails. On LG Flatron, Liz Hurst is put in charge of checking out satellite communications.
I made sure it didn't zap Chris, but I can hear the dish inside is grinding round looking for its satellite.
I think we can hear that, can't we?
Anne really needs to send an email to say happy birthday to Tim. And Dr. Bob would like to say happy 4th of July to his wife.
On the yacht of Alex Phillips, one of the 2 women skippers, the birthday celebrations are on board. Susie Telford is 32, one of 3 birthdays in the fleet during the week.
Happy birthday, dear Susie. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Oh, this is for me. There you go.
On Stephen Wilkins' boat, they're celebrating a landmark of a different kind, American Independence Day. Paul Lynch from the USA conducts this hastily assembled choir.
Once so proudly we hailed as the twilight starts gleaming. We're not going to stow her or anything.
Oh, headache.
No, Tina Williamson isn't suffering a hangover. The crew member on Team Spirit is taking part in a medical exercise. Don't worry, it's only tomato ketchup, not the real thing.
Stop laughing on the camera.
Strap her in. Alright, we got to strap her in so she doesn't... Where's the straps there?
The object is to carry the injured person on a makeshift stretcher in a safe and orderly fashion. Once down below, the patient has to be manoeuvred into a bunk. In such a tight space, it's anything but easy, as Irishman Kevin Sinnott on Carnegie's boat is about to find out.
I am ready to operate.
Kevin, right in now. This moves straight onto the bunk. 2-6. Hey!
Kick out.
Do you feel like you would have made that? You could have survived that?
No.
Really? Why not?
Because they kept dropping me on things in the deck like the cars and the handrail.
Really? That was hard.
And I slipped out of the thing on the way down the steps.
As well as the emergency procedures, there's the chance to hone their climbing skills as the crews carry out necessary maintenance work. Ballet dancer Robert Bell is having a ball on Logica.
I need a hero.
He seems to be fitting in well with his colleagues.
It's amazing that we've got Rob on the boat. He can do absolutely anything for us. He's our hero.
Part of this week is about assessing the crew. It looks as if Robert could end up with the coveted position of bowman.
Well done, Rob.
Now the 6-day sail is almost at an end. Everyone is safe and sound, richer for the experience, and more prepared for the bigger tests to come.
It's been quite a light week as far as winds are concerned. Compared to what we're perhaps going to experience on the race, it wasn't so testing, but as far as team building goes and getting the crew together and learning the manoeuvres of the boat, it's been second to none.
The number of emergencies we've been is impossible on a single yacht in such a short span of time. We had like emergency steering, we had knockdowns, we had collisions, we had fires. It's just amazing the amount of things that can happen to a yacht.
Actually a very salutary lesson, as well as a good exercise in the communications for the whole race. To actually go through these things and think, what would actually happen if you had a fire in the oil skin? What would you do if you actually had a collision? It's vital stuff to know, very thought-provoking, and as a direct result, you have a greater understanding of it.
I named this yacht.
Over the last few months, boats without sponsors clinch last-minute deals. Tessa Sanderson, the former Olympic javelin champion, is the appropriate choice for naming Hopkinson's yacht Olympic Group. The 12-boat lineup now looks like this. BP, skippered by Mark Denton. Compaq has Australian Will Oxley in charge. Isle of Man and Lynn Parker, one of 2 female skippers. Alex Phillips, the other, leads the challenge of Quadstone. LG Flatron is skippered by Conrad Humphreys. Logica by Jeremy Troughton. Norwich Union has Neil Murray leading the way. Olympic Group is guided by Manly Hopkinson. Save the Children has Nick Fenton in control. Spirit of Hong Kong is skippered by Australian Stephen Wilkins. Team Spirit is led by Andy Dare. And Veritas by Will Carnegie.
The last 8 months have been a blur of planning and preparation and training. We're all dying to get out there and just to start what we're here to do.
I've always dreamt as a kid of circumnavigating the globe in one foul swoop. So, I mean, this is just going to be fantastic. You'll see a very big smile on my face in Southampton next year.
It is just so emotional, and for me it's just fantastic. And quite frankly, I'm a 60-year-old, I should really be dead, and it just keeps me alive.
4 years ago, the fleet of the last BT Global Challenge faced a full-blown gale as they battled out of the Solent. Sir Che's class of the new millennium will hope for kinder conditions when they depart on September the 10th. One thing's certain though, they'll discover plenty about themselves and each other on the first leg to Boston. You can follow their adventure around the globe over the next 10 months with us.